live. So I just want to welcome anyone that's watching just now and give a really big special welcome to anyone that's new to me or new to Astuti or new to coaching in general or mindset stuff. And an even bigger welcome to anyone who's struggling today, because you're in the right place and you're choosing this over anything else that you could be doing right now, and that's not taken for granted. So just welcome in, and you'll hear loads of wisdom and tips and advice today. So just take whatever you need. And with saying that, one of the ways that I would invite you to listen is just to listen for the similarities between us and just discard the differences, right? Because that's how you're going to get the most out of this. So I'm Andrea from Dominant Mindset Coaching. I was a dominatrix for 12 years. I was an alcoholic for 6. And now I'm a confidence coach, and I help people to turn setbacks into personal power using the 5D power process. And today I've invited on Astuti, and I'm so excited to hear everything that Astuti is going to bring. We were just chatting before we started, and I've already got that really cool feeling about you. Like, I'm excited to hear what you're going to say. So, Astuti, do you want to introduce yourself and let us know just a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what you're about?
Yes, thank you, Andrea. Thank you so much for having me. It's very lovely to be here. So, actually, when people ask me what I am, I'm actually a catalyst in a transformational journey of people. I am a recovered achievement addict. So I'm addicted to achieving and working. Basically, who rose back from burnout. I had a burnout at the end of 2008, and it took me a couple of years to come back up. And I have managed to stay healthy since. So as a consequence of this, when you go through some mini death life experience in your life, you learn a lot. And I decided to change career basically in 2015. And I now help people to, particularly go-getters like me. A lot of my clients feel like they're also addicted to work or achieving, to live from a more open heart, from a more open and awakened heart. So they're much more aligned to who they really, really are, where they will reimagine success, create a new definition of success, create new habits, change their mindset, heal their wounds, their trauma, etc. So to live beyond the automatic or default unconscious patterns, let's say. So that's what I do now. Yeah.
You're talking to me right now, because I am so addicted. Like, have you ever saw that positive intelligence stuff? It's with Shirzad. I get 10 out of 10 hyperachiever, and I was
high five, sister.
High five to that. I was delighted with that, because I was like, yes, I've completed it. And then I was like, oh wait, that's maybe why I'm so high. Like, I thought that was a good thing. It's now down at 8.8, but I'm holding on to it. So yeah, I can feel every single bit of what you said there, because I've done the burnouts, I've done several of them.
God,
it's mad.
Yes.
So what, in your opinion, or your experience, what do you think makes a woman powerful?
Okay, very good one. For me, the ability to be connected to the heart, hands on heart. This is like my life lessons. I'm a woman. I look like a woman, but I grew up in a very masculine way. Okay. And what I mean by that is I grew up before my time, let's just say, because of what happened in my family, and even my own birth process was contributing to this. I became the over-responsible person, and what was coming naturally with that, when you had to grow up really quickly, part of your brain is overdeveloped and the other part is not as developed. And what was developed is the logical thinking, the solution finding, the structure, the process, all these things. And to feel my emotion, there was never a space for that. When you grew up thinking like you have to over deliver all the time, you always think of practicalities, because you have no capacity to, at the time, you didn't have capacity to feel, because with feeling, somebody needs to hold you to allow you to feel and to make sense of it sometimes. But that was not the case with me and my upbringing. So yeah, so my masculine side is very developed. So logical thinking, repress emotion, get on with it. Like really like a military general to myself. So it's like, get up and wake up and continue. This was the the dominatrix, yeah. Right? We did it to ourselves first and foremost, and then with and with some other people, sometimes we're nicer, but like to self, it's like shh, shh, shh. So so that was the thing for me was, and I see this a lot. I see this a lot in many women, and to the degree that sometimes people feels like it's a weakness to feel, a weakness to show emotions, a weakness to tell people I'm tired, okay, and etc., which actually not true in my opinion. I think we are much more powerful when we are much more balanced within ourselves, between the masculine and the feminine. And basically, if we are too masculine, like in my case, I was much more masculine in the way that I carry my energy, is letting go a lot to create more space for the feminine, because it's always there. It's just it didn't have the space to grow up and to fill up the seat, basically. Yeah.
I was the same. Feelings don't get things done, right?
Yes. It's like, okay, just stop feeling, do not cry. And then there were years when I was crying, I had headache. This was what happened because of the suppression of so much. And I also ran away to my cave a lot, like men would, like in my invisible cave, obviously. But yeah, it's very Martian, some people say, instead of like a Venus kind of approach.
Martian. It's like someone's tore us in half, isn't it?
Yes.
What is going on here? So I totally get that. And that kind of feelings don't get things done, just get up, get on with it, and all of that stuff. Like, what was the longest time that you didn't cry for?
That I was sorry?
What was the longest time that you went without crying?
Oh my God, years. Years, really years. I remember, I think between 2001 till end of 2002. So it's almost 2 years. And the reason why I cried is because my grandfather died, and I heard my mom crying on the phone. And I couldn't cry right away. I had to call a friend, my best friend, to talk about it. And then all of a sudden I cried, and then I get headache for 2 hours. And it was so insane how I even noticed to myself, why can't I cry? Like by myself. Why was it so difficult to allow the tears to come out? And I think this is partly because I need to be there for my parents. I need to be there for my mother. She just lost her father. But this is like a thing that I did a lot. I need to be there for them. And then if there is still some energy left, then I may attend to myself. And this goes on and on until I get the burnout, I was 34 when I had the burnout. So it was pretty long journey of disconnection. Not entirely disconnected, but a lot of disconnection with self, or my heart, basically.
I went 11 years without crying.
Oh my God. In one go.
In one go. And it wasn't, I didn't notice that I'd done it.
Right.
So I just stopped crying. I didn't know why. And then I felt weird about crying, and I just held it in anytime. And I distracted myself. And then I was in a relationship with someone, and I've always gone for guys that are quite sensitive and quite almost effeminate, right? Because I've always been quite a masculine type of person. So that's always been my thing. Like, and people have joked in the past, is your boyfriend gay? And I'm like, no, he's just like very effeminate, right? Like,
yes.
And so I was dating this guy, and we'd been together a couple of years at this point, and we were sitting watching Moulin Rouge, which is a really sad movie.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting watching it, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I could hear, it was me, him, and a female friend of ours, and I could hear this sobbing, right? And I'm like, I thought it was my friend Lorraine that was crying. So I turned around, Lorraine's like that. She's fine. Then I looked in the corner and my boyfriend at the time was just floods of tears.
Yes.
And I was like, what is going on? Like, this isn't even a sad movie.
Yeah.
So we had a chat after that and he was like, how can you not cry at that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
are you just void of emotion? He says, in fact, I've never saw you cry. And I was like, well, I've never had a reason to. And he's like, when is the last time you cried? And that was when I counted it up. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, right, okay, it's been about 11 years. And he's like, that's not normal.
Yeah.
But it was normal to me.
Yeah.
And then what we ended up splitting up, and then I cried.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was it.
Finally.
Something changed,
The heart
right?
opens.
Even now, I'm not really a big crier, but it's something that I always found unnecessary. Like, what does it solve? What does it achieve? That
Correct.
was what I thought, right? Because I'm
correct
all about achievement and results. Is that what you had as well?
Yes. How does it support me in finding solutions? It doesn't. So then because I always get tired, being emotional was tiring.
Yes.
So I avoid anything that took energy away from me from solving problems. It's such a, and I didn't even realize, it's just how it was for many, many years. And it was quite shocking to realize that, because I realized also afterwards, suppressing emotion takes also a lot of energy.
Oh, no.
The energy that we can actually use much better and much more productive way.
Like we were talking before we got on about being nervous is really exhausting. Like, as well, just ripping the band-aid off.
Exactly. Being nervous is very exhausting. Exactly.
So that you mentioned burnout earlier, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, but one of my questions that I wanted to ask was, what's something that you've personally come through or had to battle through that's actually made you more powerful as a result?
Yeah.
And I'm imagining it's going to be something around burnout.
Yes. Burnout is my adult mini death, I would say. So, yes. So I experienced burnout actually at the end of 2008. I literally couldn't connect my brain with my body. So I remember what happened around that time of when it happened was, I worked for one of the major banks here in Switzerland. And in 2008, there was a financial crisis here in Switzerland, which impacted heavily the bank that I was working for in terms of share price and everything. And the bank had to let go a lot of people. And I come from Indonesia, Andrea. I grew up in Indonesia where these things happens a lot. Okay, but not in Switzerland. Switzerland is very stable, very regulated. Everything was in place, or has always been, and will always be. Yeah. And so I think I reacted very differently to the situation, because I'm so used to up and down, unpredictability, etc., that I did what my automatic pattern was. I raised my hand and offer to take on more responsibilities. And at the time it was needed. So basically that year, I pretty much worked 3 roles parallel. I worked for almost a year for 100 hours per week, close to 100 hours per week.
Wow.
But I was able, the general in me was able to force myself going down this path for so long. And until about 2 weeks prior, the actual, the body went down. I had a meeting with a social counselor at UBS because there was a conflict in my team. And he said, this conflict is easy. You are heading into burnout. And I was like, what is a burnout? Like, what is that? And he was explaining this. And he mentioned that he had sent people to clinics that year, like more than he would in other years. Yeah. And 2 weeks later, then my body shut down, and disconnections. And it took me about 2.5 years to come out, starting from, with burnout, it's almost like you had to reset everything from the physical, the mind, the emotions, and the soul somehow. Yeah. And it's a complicated process because your body is extremely exhausted. So I started from that level, is trying to get my physical health back, and then go into the work, the deep work, which is the finding out the root cause of what is it that was causing this automatic desire. let me help everybody and let me put everybody first, for a long time, which I can control. I can use my mind very well, because that it shows that, I can stretch myself for a long time. But I never knew where to stop that, and why couldn't I stop that? That was the questions, right? Because I decided this is the only burnout I'm going to experience in my life, and I'm just going to get to the bottom of this.
I love that we tell ourselves that.
Yes.
I'll start this one up with
exactly. It's like, let me get to the bottom of this. I would never experience this again. And I was really, it was quite a long journey, but thank God, knock on wood. 13 years on, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm taking bigger risks, but I also changed a lot change a lot of my beliefs, do a lot of healing therapy and all this, because I seriously do not want to be in the same position again, ever. Yes. So that was a mini death for me, because what happened after, I realized through the journey of finding out, by the way, when I went through this healing, Andrea, there was no one person I go to guide through the process. It's like different parts from different people. Yeah. And this is, thankfully, I'm curious. So then I like doing these things. But I thought to myself, if people are not as curious as I am, they may be overwhelmed. They may get overwhelmed. But where do I start? And, which path to go, etc. And so I decided to just, completely keeping the journal of this process for me, and to understand what was actually working and why, etc. And so it was soul searching almost. And then I realized, when the biggest reason why there was a burnout is because my heart was not fully opened. Therefore, I couldn't hear myself. I couldn't hear my body. I couldn't hear my intuition. I couldn't allow people to come in. I couldn't ask for help. I couldn't receive help, and it became very lonely. The good thing is my mind was so strong that I could last that long, but it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't sustainable at all. I decided to, I want to live quite long. So, so for me, that was the biggest realization, that the heart, I needed to heal my heart. Mm-hmm. I need to heal my heart.
I think it was either Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos. Pretty sure it was Steve Jobs that said that you can only join the dots backwards.
Steve Jobs.
Okay, good. Almost right.
Well done.
So, you can only join them backwards. So when you join those dots backwards, can you see the things that, just for anyone listening that might be in the middle of this and they can't see it for themselves, was there anything that you think that you maybe stepped over, or that you ignored or pushed away and went, oh, it's fine, it's just part of it? Like, what were the signs that you maybe missed that led you to burnout?
Yeah. This I would call it arrogance. Okay. It's an arrogance that this, whatever happens to people, will not happen to me. Okay. But that also came from a place of fear. Arrogance come from a place of fear of not able to deliver, right? So you talk yourself up. You need to learn faster. You need to deliver more, etc. And this is actually this wound is coming from my childhood of the fear of separation, or the fear of losing my parents. So this came from really, before I was 4 years old, and even my birth process was quite a difficult one for my mother, that I got separated from my mother. So I think from the subconscious mind perspective, there's a lot of fear about being separated, and the way I overcame that fear very, very early on, because of the setup of what had happened with our family, I decided that I'm going to be just this, I'm going to be bigger than who I was actually. And then you overcompensate, because you tell yourself, it's not going to happen to you. It happens to them, but it's not going to happen to you. That's what I overstepped. It's almost like I had no, it's not, it it would not be fair to say I wasn't kind with myself. I think I was partly kind to myself, but I was demanding a lot of myself. And this created so much tension. And when you are your biggest critic, you hear yourself all the time, then you start to tell yourself, okay, that's not going to happen. So you are you're lying to yourself, basically. That's what happened. Yeah. I don't need sleep more than 5 hours. One of those things that I keep telling myself that year. I don't need to do sports, really. It's not that important, or I don't need so much food. It's all the things that nourishing my body, because it takes a bit longer to make or to enjoy, to get. I rather solve problems than do that. So, and that happens a lot and become automatic, basically, for a while. So that's an oversight. It's neglect, self-neglect, I think, was the key thing. It started subtly, but then it becomes more severe over time. And then at some point I had no energy anymore to change anything, because I was way too tired, too exhausted in the whole process, but I couldn't come out of it either. Mm-hmm. And that's when it started to crash down. Yeah.
And I like what you said about that kindness to yourself, but for me, the kindness was always conditional. Mm-hmm. So I'll be okay, I'll be good to myself once I get this, or once that happens, or once I achieve that. I was never kind to myself just for being kind to myself.
Right.
Going, you know what, you deserve to be celebrated just as you are.
Yeah.
And just as you stand. And that was something that I needed to learn big time. Yeah. And even then, like the past few weeks, I was saying to you before about how I nearly burnt out. Like I got to that stage and I now recognise that the first thing that goes is my eating.
Yeah, me too.
First thing that goes every time I stop eating well, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute here. There's something there that I need to look at. That's my ding ding. The bell's going now. Because what I used to do is let that go, let everything else go. And then by the time I get to, I'm now going for 15-minute naps in between each session, then I would go,
yes,
it's an issue, right? Yeah, but I'm so tired.
Exactly.
That I can't cook for myself or do, and then I need to take myself away and do nothing. For just a few days, slow things back down again.
Yes, but you mentioned something very important. This is also what I realized recently. Okay, let's say over the past 3 years. I think it takes courage actually to defy the norms in terms of how you should live your life. And I'm not saying everybody should live the way you and I do. We have a profession where we show up for people. And we show up using our heart. That's how we help people. We help the people with our hearts. And I realized that when the lifestyle that I had when I was working for the bank, where I used a lot of my logical mind, cannot help me or does not serve me showing up for people in the way that we both do now.
Yeah.
And it took a while to be comfortable with the idea that it's okay to take a nap, in between sessions.
Yeah.
And with the food also is when you are living from your heart a lot, your vibration is somewhat different, and you use the energy differently. You use different parts of your brain differently, and yet everything else, or a lot of the things that were in place, was not to support that. And when you tell other people about this, they're like, what? Why do you do this? As if like that's like for the weak or the lazy or whatever. But you know what? Yeah. It's not. Okay. It's like, I'm so happy you brought up about the naps, because it was really like a conversation recently, and people go, you take a nap in between sessions when I need. It's not every day I do it, but when I do need it, I do that. And I thought to myself, now I can see very clearly now with my logical mind even, but that's what is required.
Yeah.
That's what's required.
Sometimes it's a massive energy expenditure when you're sitting in session with someone, because being fully present plus trying to keep nothing in the space. Because
Yes.
sometimes I get triggered by things people say.
Yes.
And I have
Yes.
to then go, right, okay, what am I doing? What's coming in here?
Right.
There's judgment coming in.
Right.
There's defensive coming in. There's trying to force an outcome coming in, or there's all wee things start to, and I'm like, get out, right?
Yeah.
Let's get back to nothing and keep nothing in the space. So
yes. Yes.
totally get all of that. So okay, amazing. And it sounds like you've definitely come out of the other side far more powerful and able to manage all this stuff. And not only that, you're helping other people do that as well, which is just incredible.
Thank you.
And so what would you say, if you could put it into a summary, what are the main lessons that you've learned as a result of that experience?
That vulnerability is a strength. This is my life lessons. Like, this is literally, if people ask me if I die tomorrow, and then the angel asks, so what did you learn on earth? Then I would say vulnerability is the strength, and that living from the heart is very enriching and fulfilling. This is what I would say to the angels.
Excellent, love it.
And it's and then also, what I also realize, Andrea, is that it's an ongoing process. I was asked by a friend today, if you were to say to your 40-year-old self, what would you say? And I said, you know what I can see in hindsight, the dots, that you said. When I was in my early 40s, I couldn't see that my heart was quite fast. And now I can see it clearer, but I know there's still more to clear and heal. And I think this is probably connected to what I feel a calling in a way.
Yeah.
We need more love, the energy of love these days. And so just by being who I am, even when I don't have clients, just by embodying this heart, just allow my heart to expand, will allow me already to give something to the world, even when there's no client to work with. It's just by being who I am. And I think this was something that I didn't know when I was 40. Now I'm 47. I could see that, and I could still see and feel there is still more to clear out and to unleash in that area.
Absolutely. So I've got some fun questions that I like to ask everybody, and the reason I ask this is I just love hearing the breadth of answers that I get. It gives me so many ideas.
Let's see.
And also for me, highlights some of the stuff that maybe I need to go and take care of, right? And for some people, they go, well, they get very practical about it. And I always wonder, well, what stops you doing it now, right? If it's, I need to sort out my will, just do it. Clear that space for something else to come in, right? Because you don't want to be spending your last 24 hours sorting out your will. So there's two things that's guaranteed in life. And one of the things is that we're all going to die one day. And the other thing that's guaranteed is that we don't know when.
Yes.
No idea, right?
Yes.
It could be in the next 5 minutes for all I know, right? And I hope it's not, but you never know. So if you had 24 hours left to live, how would you spend them?
I would go to the US and hang out with my nephew, Leo. He's this little, I was like, I'm ready. I love this boy. He's 3 years old. He just recently being diagnosed with autism. He has so much love. He has so much love. And I just realized as he was born, I was part of his birth process, that he is a full, complete little person. That was the first time. And clarity comes to me. It's not like, it's like, oh my God. It's like, this is a complete human being. He knows a lot. He knows probably a lot more than I did when he was born. So spend the time with Leo. Just soak in his love, really.
Oh, amazing. So now we're going to stretch it. What if you had a week, a full 7 days? What would you do with them?
Yes, I would swim with the dolphin.
Nice.
Yes, this is my wish. I don't know which ocean I would go to and find them, but I probably will do. I haven't done research. And one thing I would love to go is to see the light on the Northern Light, the
Northern Light,
Aurora Borealis. Yes. That were two things. If half a week, I'll go swim in the ocean, and then I go up north and look at this light.
Oh, that would be so good. So now you need to go and do the research as to what
Yes.
dolphins are, right?
Yes,
Get
hopefully.
the practical stuff out of the way.
Exactly.
Get a Trello board going. I've got one with my partner where we just like add experiences. Like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and he keeps showing me things. Well, I put it on the board, and I'm like, yeah, let's put it on the board. So,
yes.
Okay, amazing. So, what if you had a year? How would you spend a year?
I
If
would.
you had a year, is there anything you would stop doing if you had the year?
Yes, I would. I would. I would actually take half a year off. So this year, for example, I don't have enough holidays. So this is coming from like, I need to show up for people, etc. So no, for this, if I only have a year, I would take half a year off, completely not working. No, I would take 3/4 of the year off.
Yeah.
And spend half of each time with my siblings. One is in Australia with his family, and one is in the US with her family. And then the other third is just with my friends and who I'm with. So it's like a lot with family and a little bit with myself and all the other people around me right now.
Okay.
Just that. Yeah. So it's really focused on spending time with the people that I love so much.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And you touched on this earlier, but if you could meet your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give her?
I think this is a very good question. And this is what I realized lately. That, yes, it's great that she loves learning and growing. And what she can also see as growing is resting, playing, and expressing herself artistically, because this is also growing, but growing in a very different way. And in the past, I didn't see that as a growth journey. I see that as a wasting of time. So sleeping or resting, being artistic, and playing is so important. And I would say to her, that's also growing. If your desire is to continue growing, this is also growing, but it's a very different way of growing.
Okay, love it. And what do you think your 90-year-old self would say to you if she could see you now?
Well done. A++ for effort. A++ for effort. And this is a big deal for me also, Andrea, because for decades, I was driven by an outcome, but not so much of the process. In fact, I neglected the process. It was never part of, it's almost like just get on with it and kind of approach, and never to embrace the process, take a moment to enjoy the process, to learn something deep from the process. So it's now I think where I'm at now, I'm putting more emphasis or importance towards the process more than the outcome. It's almost like I just would need a direction, and I don't really care so much how far I've gone, but more about making consistent step in the way that is fulfilling, I would say, for me in the process. So it was a complete turnaround from the first 30 years or 34 years of my life, and it's very outcome driven, and I was a process loving.
Yeah.
So yeah, A++ for effort. My 90-year-old self would say.
Amazing. And what legacy would you love to leave when you go?
Yes, I would love to see a lot more people living from the heart, to be brave enough to do that. I think a lot of my clients initially, when they come to me, they wanted this, but they were also scared because they know they will feel a lot. Yeah, and they're not used to this, and it's quite scary. What if I cannot deal with the emotions, etc.? So there's a lot of education, I would say, needed to be provided to get used to and to handle this. I remember when I was not comfortable with feelings. So I think I want more people to live with more open and more awake heart. And for me, this allows them to live from a place of love rather than fear.
Yes.
Yeah. So less fear, more love.
Less fear, more love.
Yes.
You can't have love and fear at the same time. It's one or the other. So it's got to be, got to pick love and abundance and all of those good things.
Yes.
So what is your why? What's your purpose? What drives you? What keeps you going and gets you kicking your duvet off in the morning?
It's a very good question. You know, the things that really, really, really get me excited is when people have an aha moment. Oh, this is just, I think a word I would choose for that is waking up, perhaps. Yeah. Oh, I didn't see that. Now you see. So I think this is, for me, this is the biggest excitement, even when I see this for myself. It's like, now I can see. And I do spend a lot of time to find different ways of looking at things. It's just a habit that I choose to keep. But I get this excitement when people see that, because then they can see things differently and explore other ways of being or becoming, right? So for me, this is that sensation is really keeping me going every day. And it makes me feel somewhat useful too. I think I'm one of those human beings who likes to feel like I can be useful for other people.
Oh, love it. So do you have any final advice for any women or anyone, any gender watching? Because to be honest, this is universal. So any final advice for anyone watching?
Yes, I think that we don't, okay. It is possible to live a life feeling fulfilled and with ease. It is possible. I'm one of those examples, and I'm not special from that perspective. I'm like just anybody on the street, really. It is possible, yet it takes courage to decide. So I think, ask yourself, I'm asking, because this is a question that my mentor also asked me, and this is so profound sitting with me. He asked me, do you have the permission? Do you give yourself the permission to be happier than the people around you? Do you have the permission to be happier than your parents, to be healthier than your parents, to be wealthier than your parents or the people around you? Do you have the permission? Do you give yourself a permission to do this? And this is when you sit with it, this is very profound questions and usually provoke deep emotions. And so it takes courage. It takes courage to do that. It is doable, but we have to show up to that. And if it's too much, get people to support you, like yourself, like me, like other people who's dedicating their lives, healing themselves to be able to show up. For brave people who decided that, yes, I'm going to give myself the permission to live from the heart, to live my authentic self, to live on my terms as much as possible. So it is just be courageous. And if it's overwhelming, get help. This is what I would say.
Absolutely. I wish I'd got it sooner.
Yeah.
And I did it. But I was like, I'll do it myself. It'll be fine. And
right.
Like, oh no, I can't do it myself.
Yes, exactly. But this has come from this dominatrix mindset. No, it's like, I take care of my exactly. It's like, I don't need help. And then
like, no, tell me to do anything, right?
Right.
You don't try. What are you doing?
Exactly.
Madness. The torture that we put ourselves through. So how can people contact you if they want to talk to you about any of these things that's come up?
Yes. So I am easily found. You can find me in my website, www.upliftmylife.today, or you can email me at Astuti, ASTUTI, at upliftmylife.today. I also have a podcast channel, so you can find it in Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts.
What's the name
Apple
of your
podcast? Uplift My Life Today.
Uplift My Life Today. And
everywhere. Yes.
And what do you cover on that podcast?
So I basically cover different topics that helps people like me who's achievement addicts and go-getters who is very masculine to shift their lives into the heart. So there are different elements. You talk about death, health, trauma, all these things. So all kinds of things there, and also conversation with people who managed to do the transition. So,
sounds amazing. So good.
Come and join and visit our podcast. Yes,
I will. Okay, good. So I'm going to put your contact details and everything onto the YouTube video. And I'll be doing all my admin later on tonight. So I'll get all of that up later on.
Perfect.
But I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and spending time doing this. I know that everyone that will have listened to this will have benefited in some way or another. Like that was exactly what I needed to hear. It's so serendipitous after the weekend. Like this was just, exactly it. So thank you so much for sharing it so generously. And I can't wait to see what the feedback's like on this. Like,
yes,
please, if anyone is struggling with burnout or if you feel like you are, living in that masculine energy and you want some balancing out, then speak to Astuti and see what you can do together. So
thank you so much, Andrea, and everyone. I look forward to connect with everyone somehow, somewhere.
Amazing. All right, take care. Right, bye everyone. Bye.